This podcast is brought to you by Primary Intelligence, the leader in win-loss analysis, focused on helping businesses uncover the unique story on how each sales rep can win more deals.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me on another rousing edition of Sales Intelligence Weekly, brought to you by Primary Intelligence. I'm Ryan Queller. All right, everyone. So last week we spoke with our friend Warren Schertzinger, managing partner at High Tech Strategies, on how to accelerate market acceptance. We're excited. As promised, last week we said Warren would be back, and he's back. Warren, thanks for joining us on episode number 2 of the show.
Absolutely. Yep. This is great stuff.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
if you're just tuning in and you haven't listened to the first show, I would urge you, go back and listen to the first one. It's going to set up the conversation or a continuation of this episode. So last week we went through your framework, Warren, on accelerating market acceptance and shortening the sales cycle. Today, we're going to be talking more about product launches. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So we're going to explore that together on today's show. But before I hop into it, I do want to give listeners the ability to hear from you. Warren, you're a fascinating human. Something that we didn't talk about last time was you're actually doing something on a daily basis that has, as you put it, become part of your DNA.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for 20 years. What is the thing that you love to do?
Yeah. I'm a hiker. I'm addicted to hiking.
My name is Warren, and I have, it's been
Right.
13 hours since my last hike. So why hiking? Why are you addicted to hiking?
Yeah. It just is the most wonderful place to just free my mind. And for some reason, when I'm out on the trail, I get really interesting ideas of all kinds. A lot of it is, how to explain things in ways that are easier to understand, and ideas that would help clients. But I get out of the office, out onto the trail, and I'm always taking little memos, little notes about the ideas that just pop up as I'm on the trail hiking, and it's a lot of fun, actually.
I love that. And I too love being out in nature amongst the the lakes and the trees. There's something about that break state from the insanity of the pressure of
Yes.
today's world, that being away maybe gives additional or different space for your mind to be creative and innovate.
It seems to work that way. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It feels good. It just feels good.
It does. Now you haven't. What's odd? Lots of people love to hike and get outside, but you have a streak. Was it 20 years?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
20 years without missing a day.
Without missing a day. And maybe part of it is being in the Pacific Northwest. And there are a lot of options. Even in Redmond, nearby, just fabulous places to hike, as well as the Cascade Mountains. So I don't have to go very far.
Because that makes it easy. Well,
Yeah.
if we do ever meet up in person, man, we're going to have to go take a hike, and you can show me your favorite places to go. And if you ever make it out this way to Utah, be happy to show you some of mine. So
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, Ryan, or Warren, I almost said Ryan, that's my name. So Warren, let's hop into this. Now, let's pull up your pyramid again. And so for listeners, we're going to share that now. So if you're watching this, you should be able to see it. But if you're listening, if you're just listening and not watching, check out the show notes for the graphic to follow along. Okay, so briefly, Warren, why don't you give us the story behind the pyramid and framework that you created? Give us a recap of what we talked about last time.
Yep. So, the idea is people want to feel safe, especially when they make a purchase decision that has longer term consequences. And in order to make the right choice, they reach out to their network. And this pyramid is really the representation of an industry network or infrastructure. And these are all of the different groups or types of people who might have an influence on the purchase decision that is made by the customer. The vendor, unfortunately, is as far away as you can get on this pyramid, right? The vendor's at the bottom, the customer's at the top. All of the different layers represent different types of groups of people, and they all can have an influence over what the customer buys. So they act to validate your product and your company. So if you get them to work on your behalf, life is good. It's so everything is way, way easier.
Okay. So last time we talked about accelerating acceptance, market acceptance. Let's talk about product launch.
Okay.
Let's walk through the pyramid together, specifically focusing on launching this product. All right.
Okay.
So where do we start? How do we start this?
All right. So and by the way, a product launch is just a fabulous opportunity to align all kinds of things. And I'll hit on some of these. But the very first step when you're going to go and launch a product, and remember, some products that you launch are in a new market, one that you haven't served before, or could be in an existing market, one that you know well. People are doing both. But the starting point is always, what do the people in the pyramid already think? And it's mostly category oriented. And I hope everybody's okay with metaphors and analogies.
We are an open metaphor, equal metaphor opportunity organization. So please, metaphor away.
Okay. So if you decide, for example, to go work for an automotive supplier, you're going to make a new car, you can't create a Fiat and call it a Ferrari. It's like the market has different categories for all of these different vehicles. It doesn't really matter who you talk to. They know what a high-end sports car looks like, and what a Lamborghini and a Maserati and what those really are. They know what a minivan is. They know what a truck looks like. They know what a Fiat in the mini category looks like. And they keep track of these different categories in their mind. They just keep the industry organized in buckets. And step one in a launch is you go and you find out by talking to people in the pyramid which bucket is out there that I would fit into. That's called positioning. And it's understanding how they segment, how they organize, and really looking at what are the places in these known buckets where I can stand out. That's what a positioning exercise is. So the first step in using the pyramid for a launch is to identify positioning possibilities.
Okay. And you said that it's most important, or it sounds like it's vastly important, to talk to the people in the existing layers already, rather than to try and create your own thing. Why go there first rather than just come up with your own thing and try and push your own agenda?
Well, because the pyramid is not established.
Okay, tell me more. Go.
Yeah. So if you and there's a lot of power if you can do it and create your own category. However, no one is sure what the layers are. No one is sure. Again, going back to a metaphor, I keep seeing references to vertical takeoff and landing automobiles.
Yeah.
All right. Well, who are there any publications that cover that? Are there any standards groups? Do you have consultants that talk about that kind of vehicle? Are there any existing customers? Who are the partners that help provide that? That all of those layers are missing.
Okay.
So you don't have an established infrastructure to take your message out for you.
So how do you go about establishing how, what bucket you should live in if there is no pyramid established? How do you do that? If you're one of those unicorns listening right now and you've got that brand new category, that new product that's going to revolutionize, X, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. If there is no category, or if you're what's called a category creator, then you get to help build the pyramid at the same time you're introducing your product. And, there aren't very many companies that have that kind of capability, but you essentially need to think about it almost layer by layer. How are you? I mean, you can find early customers for a brand new category, and again, I want to step back for a second and make sure that what we're talking about here is not something trivial. Hopefully, that's not a harsh word. There's a lot of content, I'll put it that way, about category creation, and the examples that they use are sports drinks. Okay, because a lot of the sports drinks were new categories. That's a short time frame, low risk purchase decision. If you are in a grocery store and there's a new category called a sports drink, and it's a little thing that you chug and you don't like it, so what? What, you've lost $3 in 3 minutes?
Yeah, there's no damage to you whatsoever.
No, but if you're talking about a new type of vehicle, or a new method of communicating internally, or a new okay, here's a big one, a new healthcare monitoring device. Ooh, oh, okay. Well, you go into that with a new category, and that doesn't work out. What happens? People lose millions and unbelievable amounts of time, and the worst possible outcome in healthcare is patients die. So you cannot use what I'm going to call the traditional category creation methods that generally just talk about sports drinks and things like that and apply it across the board. No way. No way. So you have to have those different scenarios in mind. But category creation is very tough, and it is literally building the pyramid along with the rest of the infrastructure, or all of the value delivery. Okay. Awfully tough. Kind of a different conversation, actually.
So, and maybe we'll have a third episode. Maybe we talk about this on the third episode. Okay, so this is step 1. What's step 2? What comes next?
Okay, so you understand who's in the pyramid. You understand what the layers are and the top 10%, like we talked about last time. You get a sense of how they make, and I think you have a degree in psychology, so people do things to avoid going insane. So
sane people try to anyway.
Well, okay. So people keep track of things in buckets. You find out what bucket you could fit into, and you listen to what the pyramid tells you. Certainly the top 10% of the pyramid, what they tell you about their methods of organizing and their beliefs and perspectives. And then you go out and you say, okay, I'm going to gather the evidence that is needed for proof to fit into one of those buckets. And that could be, early studies, maybe there's a lab or a research project somewhere that shows early results. Maybe you've got beta customers or beta sites, and you've got early results from that. Maybe you've found partners who are doing an accelerator or whatever, and there's proof from that. But you basically put together proof. Okay. Then you go and you use what you've learned from the pyramid, and you say, okay, this is how they describe things. These are the words they use. We're going to anchor to that. We're going to use the same words, the same phrases, the same category buckets, and we're going to describe what we have. And then we're going to use these points of proof that we've gathered so that we can go out and speak to them in the same language with proof. And you take it to the top 10%.
Okay, so you last time we talked about this as well, about the right people, getting to the right people, the top 10%. Why is that proof or that data? Why is that data so important? I mean, what does that do?
Well, you're currently unknown, or at least your product is unknown. This is a launch, but the old saying is, what you say doesn't matter. It's only what you can prove. So it's a necessary step in getting the market to absolutely support you and your selling efforts, is to be able to say, and we have this proof of value. Our new thing absolutely works. And here are the people who will tell you that it also works. So it's a necessary component of having a valid claim.
Okay.
Now
I need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Contextually, the day and age that we live in today, data claims can be made kind of anywhere, and we are in the news right now, dealing with some of the aftermath of some big tech. You mentioned healthcare. There is a big one out there right now that went down. Who is the onus on to prove the validity of the data? You know, why is that important to do, and who owns that?
Yeah. And you know, the further up the pyramid it is, the better off it would probably be. And I think I know who you're referring to. And there was a trial and
it was sentencing and the whole bit.
And sentencing. Yep. All right. So what that means to me is the source of whatever claim was too far down in the pyramid. It was too, I guess, attached to the vendor, or was a partner of some kind, which is, essentially layer number 2. And whether or not there were actual customers was not clear to me. But the more that you can move up and get validation from higher levels, the more credibility it has, and the less likelihood it would be biased by the actual supplier. And let's see, that's healthcare. And one of the things that would be the slam dunk in healthcare is a clinical trial, right? Using FDA guidance, and it's run by I think they call them CROs, a clinical research organization, right? Mm-hmm. So that's substantially up the pyramid. That's governed by a lot of things that, and see, this is the funny thing about that example you're talking about. I thought that because that was a healthcare application, why aren't there people looking for clinical trials? What is going on?
And what's your, I have an opinion about that, but what's your opinion? I'm curious.
I don't know how you would go around that. Not in healthcare, not in such a, highly regulated environment. You can't go in and say, well, we do all of these things differently and they've got a better outcome and it's cheaper, and we have no proof from the point of proof that you really have to have a clinical trial, or at least, I don't know. I don't get it.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, really. The amount of money that was poured into this and others that are like it, that are happening right now. And there's a common thread amongst all of these. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the automotive industry or healthcare. There's two instances happening in the news right now, and they're both tied to the ways that they talk about themselves. And it's more technology than it is healthcare or automotive. And it's
Yeah.
technology. And there is a level of hubris that
Yeah.
exists in the marketplace right now, at least from my perspective, my very, very humble, nobody gives a rip perspective. There's
Yeah.
an amount of hubris that exists in technology, that technology can solve everything and they'll do it right. And the data that they're going to present is going to be relevant and right on and valid every time. I think
Yeah.
that's part of the issue.
And see, unfortunately, what I think is this is going to make customers even more hesitant and even more cautious. And they're going to go, ooh, we've seen people try to fake the whole credibility side, the whole evidence that, the whole need for evidence has been faked. Let's move up the pyramid and let's be exceptionally careful about who it is saying what, and are they truly objective? Are they truly objective with solid proof? And I think some of the purchase decisions out there are going to slow down as the result of these high profile examples.
I agree. And frankly, I think that would serve humans well.
Yeah.
I think we do need to slow down a little bit. Okay. So, and we went off on a tangent there a little bit, but it was,
Okay.
I think it was apropos to our conversation, and you brought it in beautifully back to the pyramid. So what's the next step? So
Yep.
we've done steps 1 and 2. What's steps 3?
Okay.
3.
Educate from the bottom up, layer by layer.
Okay. Go.
All right.
Yeah. Help me out here.
And all right. Now, and this is something we talked about a little bit. There are companies that are not internally aligned, unfortunately, that they've got.
Wait, what? That doesn't exist. Warren, you're pulling my leg, man. Every organization is perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's for whatever the reason, and actually some of it is, or some of the reasons are perfectly valid. There are mergers and acquisitions where there are whole departments that are moved in and merged with other departments, and they're not good at speaking with each other. They don't communicate well, and maybe remote work has contributed to this a little bit. But at any rate, this is the opportunity to say, okay, let's get a launch manager and let's start at the lowest level in the pyramid, and that is us. And let's make sure throughout the organization, they understand what the position is, what it is we're going to go out and claim, what the evidence is, and who all the different players are out in the market that we're going to educate. So it is the perfect opportunity for alignment inside. Perfect. And you can get sister divisions, on board, even ones that you don't necessarily engage with a lot, but you still want their support. Absolutely. Why? Because a prospective customer might reach out to a sister division and say, hey, I see these guys over here are launching this. Tell me what you think about that idea. And it's not unheard of to have the same company say different things. Unfortunately.
In fact, no, not uncommon, and probably is more common that it does happen that way, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can address those issues with with great internal alignment, and then you start working your way up the pyramid layer by layer, and you can assign each layer to the most appropriate group in the organization. And if you've got somebody who is responsible for channels and selling, well, guess what? If that's all internal, that's an education point. But if you have reps, you've got value-added resellers, you've got distributors, whatever, guess what? That channel manager gets to educate those different groups.
Okay.
All right.
What is the impact, Warren, when we don't arrive at alignment? And are you saying we need 100% perfect alignment, or how close do we need to be?
All right. So yeah, there will never be perfect alignment, and
You're
really what
crushing all of my hopes and dreams are now crushed. Thanks a lot, Warren. I was hoping for someday to have perfect alignment inside of our organization. Damn it.
when you think about this, so much of the things we've been talking about are word of mouth conversations, right?
Yeah.
Word of mouth communication. And that's like swimming underneath a swamp or swimming through a swamp, thinking that you know what somebody up ahead is going to say. It's uh, people use their own language. They use their own terminology. They've got different perspectives. I mean, it is a swamp.
Mm.
And the best you can do is try to present information that they already understand quickly, and then listen to see if they actually get it. So it's not the mistake, which is actually too common, the mistake of just building awareness. It's not just that, it's building understanding. Big difference. Is it perfect? No. Can you ever get an entire market to say the same thing? There's not a chance. No way. But you can basically layer by layer educate the top tier and get them to have their version of what you want to say.
Okay. I love that. And so that's, it sounds like we need to be close. Doesn't have to be perfect, but need to be close.
Yep.
What's the impact of missing? If we miss this alignment, what's the impact on the rest of the pyramid?
Yeah. Sometimes if you miss a pyramid, it unfortunately kind of blocks your progress in higher levels. I almost think of it as kind of like bubbling up, right? Like, I'm using more, water-based metaphors
I
here.
like this. I like
It's
this. Let's go with the water theme. Here we go.
it's like little bubbles. They're bubbling up through the layers. And if you miss one, those bubbles can't go higher. So, you really want to do the best you possibly can of creating that understanding in each layer so that it can be, because people have influence upward, right? It's like if you're an industry association, a lot of your influence is up above, and you want those, bubbles of understanding to go up, and don't forget about those. Do not forget. Have someone assigned, align someone in your organization with that layer. Absolutely.
Okay. So what's after that? After we have alignment, what's next?
Okay. So you've essentially organized for delivery of information to learn, actually to teach, and hopefully establish understanding. What comes next is really kind of like a dialogue, and it's like an ongoing dialogue. This is not a one and done, because things change all the time. There are new technologies, new players. People will reorient the way they categorize a market, and you really want to stay in touch with each layer going forward, and listen to what they say about, what you could improve your product, you could improve your position, you could improve your messaging, you could modify your pricing strategy, whatever feedback any one of these layers wants to give you is extremely valuable. So you kind of make them into your feedback mechanism going forward, as you move through the technology adoption lifecycle. You're going to need that because there's a lot of reinvention that takes place as different types of customers start to buy, and that feedback from that pyramid is really a pretty valuable thing.
So I would imagine that the lower you, or the closer you are to the vendor, so you and then partners, for example, in the graphic that we're looking at, you
Yes.
or the vendor and then partners, if we the lower on the pyramid and the less alignment and the less understanding, or the less damage, or the more damage that we incur down here, the greater the impact to the greater marketplace as we go north on the pyramid. Am I following correctly?
Let me see if I understood. If you mess that one up, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if you mess up the bottom, it's going
Yeah.
to it's going to compound the further you get up the pyramid.
It certainly, that's certainly a possibility. Keep in mind, the lower it is, the more influence you have over shaping it. So, you could make some pretty fast corrections. If something got botched early on and it was down in a low layer, you could go and correct that problem, because you've got more impact on a lower layer. So that's not a killer of the whole thing. But ideally, you'll have a lot of these things, ready to go, worked out in their terminology, using words that already exist, perceptions that already exist. And it's just about execution, keeping in touch, and listening to the feedback and recording that, and revisiting. But yeah, so it's,
if that's not the killer, is there a hidden killer? Is there like a snake in the grass? Which is the killer? Which is going to come up and bite you and get you?
Yeah, the one I see all the time is vendors only talk to customers. But you see, the customer is looking at all these other layers to figure out what to do. And that is the big problem, is they have no interaction with these sources of trust. But
Yeah, I think that might be if there was a word associated to that, that is right on. So if they fail, okay. I believe, like culture, trust is created, or at least perceptions of trust is created either intentionally or, unintentionally. What is the impact of failing to connect with the sources of trust that your consumers are going to? They're going there anyway. What's the impact?
Yeah. So that's, and there's no guarantee that an influencer or a top tier member of the pyramid will accept what it is you are offering for information. So they can reject it. The idea is a little bit related to, if you have multiple sources of trust and validation, you will be way better. Then you're not dependent on one, because you may have an outlier who doesn't believe in anything, right?
Yeah.
And but
the nihilist of the group, right?
Well, yeah. So and the good news also is a lot of bigger companies, a lot of prospective customers, they want to see validation from not just one place. They're going to look for it from multiple locations. That's the trigger right there. The buying trigger is when they go out and go, yep, we heard the same thing from those guys and those guys and these guys. There was one guy who said something odd and we don't understand it. But the true, validation point here is multi-dimensional, and we heard it from different layers. They don't call it layers. I call it layers, but they heard it from different places. And that is what's important, is build consistency, not perfection.
Oh, I love, brother. That's the quote of the day right there. Build consistency, not perfection.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. So winding down our conversation here, Warren, for our listeners out there that are starting a product launch, I don't care if you're an existing company who's launching a new product, or if you're a brand new company with a brand new idea and you're a founder and an inventor, what's that one piece of advice that you would
Yep.
give to product launch folks?
Yep. Credibility gets you in the door. And you can wire the market so that it supports you with credibility and proof. And that's what this game is. Yeah, is what you say doesn't matter. What the marketplace says is the only thing that matters, but you can set that up to support your selling. That's what I would say.
Mic drop, walk off stage left. Warren, thank you so much for being on the show. It has been a delight to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
These are my favorite topics. There's nothing I would rather be doing, quite honestly.
And listeners, for more from our friends at High Tech Strategies, Primary Intelligence, and to see this pyramid, by the way, you need to save it and go back to it often. Check out the show notes at www.primary-intel.com/podcast. And remember, no deal is out of reach. We'll see you next time.